In an era of hypervisibility and predatory litigation, your net worth is not just a measure of success, it is a target. Before a high-stakes attorney files a lawsuit, they or their private investigators perform a calculated asset search. Their objective is not a pursuit of justice, but a determination of collectability. If a public records search reveals your name attached to high-value real estate, luxury vehicles, or significant brokerage accounts, you effectively become a golden goose for the legal system. The truly elite understand that visibility is a primary financial liability. They practice stealth wealth, the sophisticated art of building an empire while appearing on paper to own nothing at all. This is not about evasion, it is about architecture. Today, we decode the 7 behavioral signs of the invisible elite and the specific legal structures they use to maintain their sovereignty. Sign 1. Strategic modesty in logistics. The behavior. You will frequently find the secretly wealthy driving unassuming, high-reliability vehicles, often older, well-maintained models, and residing in neighborhoods that are prestigious but not ostentatious. They deliberately avoid the wealthy persona, characterized by massive estates and a fleet of supercars registered in their personal name. The strategy: privacy through obscurity. This is the first line of defense against being a collectible target. If a DMV database or a neighborhood scan reveals a multi-million-dollar asset in your name, you have signaled that there is a deep pocket worth picking. By maintaining a modest public profile, the elite ensure they never trigger an intensive asset search in the first place. To fortify this, they utilize land trusts. A land trust allows an individual to pull their personal name off the public deed of their home. When an attorney searches for John Doe, the public record reveals 0 real estate holdings. The trust holds the title, and the individual holds the control, rendering the asset invisible to a casual searcher. Sign 2. The generational standard of quality. The behavior. The invisible elite reject the fleeting trends of fast luxury and loud branding. You will not see prominent logos or seasonal fashion. Instead, they invest in items with heritage, bespoke tailoring with no visible markers, solid craftsmanship, and mechanical timepieces that have been passed down through generations. The strategy: avoiding the lawsuit magnet. In the world of asset protection, flashiness acts as a lawsuit magnet. Looking overtly wealthy increases the statistical likelihood of being sued, as it signals a high probability of a payout. By investing in high-quality, non-branded items, the elite preserve capital while avoiding the social noise that attracts predatory attention. Structurally, they separate their operating risks from their wealth. Their high-value personal assets, such as art, furniture, or equipment, are often held by a Management LLC. This means that even if the individual is personally sued, they technically do not own the assets they use in their daily life. The wealth is parked in a safe entity, while the individual simply has the right to use it. Sign 3. Absolute autonomy over time. The behavior. The most definitive sign of secret wealth is not what someone buys, but what they can skip. The elite have the autonomy to say no to prestigious but time-consuming meetings, walk away from bad deals, and remain unavailable for months at a time. Their time is no longer a commodity for sale. The strategy: separation of service and ownership. This autonomy is possible because they have mastered the separation of service and ownership. Most people are the primary service provider for their own wealth. If they stop working, the wealth stops growing. The invisible elite utilize Anonymous LLCs, registered in jurisdictions like Wyoming, Nevada, or Delaware, where the owners' names are not listed on the Secretary of State's website. These entities own the income-producing assets, while the individual remains a ghost in the machine. They maintain total control over the empire without owning the personal liability associated with running it. Sign 4. Strategic leverage and zero equity optics. The behavior. While the middle class uses debt to acquire status symbols, the secretly wealthy use debt as a surgical tool for privacy. They often appear to have zero equity in their lives. They may reside in an elegant compound, but public records suggest the property is heavily encumbered by debt. The strategy: the equity stripping fortress. This is a high-level tactic known as equity stripping. The elite record, a mortgage or a lien against their own property, which is actually held by another one of their own entities. To an outside searcher or an aggressive attorney, it looks like the property has $0 in equity. Because there is no equity to seize, the target is no longer worth the cost of a legal battle. They appear broke on paper to the public, while their private balance sheet remains fortified. Sign 5. Private networks and non-public channels. The behavior: you will rarely find the truly wealthy on public social media platforms documenting their successes. Their networking occurs in private banking lounges, exclusive members-only clubs, and off-market deal rooms. They prioritize private information over public validation. The strategy: the statutory shield. The invisible elite rely on statutory foundations, such as those available in Wyoming, which act as a hybrid between a trust and a corporation. These structures are virtually impenetrable and do not require the public disclosure of members or managers. Their network is not just for socializing, it is a web of silent partners and nominee directors who act as proxies. By using Nominee Services, the elite's name never appears on official documents, upholding the fundamental principle that publicity is the enemy of security. Sign 6. Experiences over collectible objects. The behavior: high-value physical objects can be seized or tracked. Therefore, the elite often prioritize experiences that leave no digital or physical paper trail. They would rather spend significant capital on a private, off-grid expedition than on a piece of jewelry that requires registration and public insurance filings. The strategy: the asset mobility play. When the elite do own high-value collectible assets, such as fine art, rare gems, or precious metals, they do not keep them in their personal residence, where they are collectible in a lawsuit. Instead, they utilize Freeports in jurisdictions like Switzerland or Singapore. These customs-bonded warehouses keep multi-million-dollar assets off public ledgers and outside the jurisdiction of domestic courts. If an asset is not in your home and not in your name, it effectively does not exist to a creditor. Sign 7. The absolute shield of privacy. The behavior: the final sign is a complete refusal to disclose net worth or financial specifics, even in casual, trusted conversations. They avoid performance spending and focus entirely on silent income. The strategy: the invisibility ladder. This behavior is the natural culmination of the invisibility ladder. By the time an individual reaches the top tier of asset protection, they have utilized land trusts for their homes, Anonymous LLCs for their businesses, and equity stripping for their capital. They have systematically removed their name from everything they own. They live by the principle: ownership is a liability, control is power. The goal of stealth wealth is not to hide for the sake of deception, but to build an architecture of sovereignty that makes predatory interference mathematically unrewarding. By combining behavioral modesty with tactical legal engineering, the invisible elite ensure that when the world looks at them, it sees nothing of value, while behind the scenes, their empire grows, untouched and unseen. They are not just saving money, they are architecting a life where they are no longer a target.